I ran every single legendary lost sector in the game so I could debunk the myths I've seen spread around and answer the questions so many players have. Like, is there something going on if you haven't gotten an exotic to drop in what feels like too long of a time? Questions about what the exotic drop rate is. Do all of the lost sectors have the same exotic drop rate? What are the best and worst lost sectors to farm? And then some myths I've seen, like, is there a cooldown where it's impossible to get an exotic drop again until so much time has passed? This video will answer the biggest questions everyone has about legendary lost sectors and clear up anything that you still might not understand about what's going on if you're farming for exotics or trying to get the last exotic that you still need. This whole project took about 93 hours farming inside of lost sectors alone, not taking into account the load time at the start and the end, or any random error codes that would kick me out. It would make all of that time I spent worth it if you could just hit the like button on the video. Let's start with the first question I know many of you want to know. What is the drop rate for legendary lost sectors? Why am I not getting an exotic to drop after so many runs? The drop rate for legendary lost sectors is about 25%. That is, if you get a platinum ranking every time from killing every champion that has spawned. That doesn't mean you need to wait to open the chest until every champion spawns. You can pull the chest if there's no champions alive, but as soon as you see the text in the bottom corner of your screen that a champion has spawned, don't open the chest or you hurt your drop chances. Out of 1600 legendary lost sectors that I ran and tracked, I got 393 exotics. That puts the drop rate at about 24.56%, which means that if you run enough lost sectors, like 1600 of them, you'll get an exotic about once every 4 runs. That doesn't mean that if you go run 4 right after this video that you'll get 1 exotic to show from it. You can look at the spreadsheet of all the runs I tracked and find sections where 3 exotics dropped within 4 runs, 2 exotics, or even no exotics had dropped for a lot longer than 4 lost sectors. Every time you open that chest, you're rolling a 4-sided dice hoping to get lucky. The next question I have an answer for is a myth that I've seen passed around that while it means well, it's giving people some false hope. The question people ask is there a cooldown before I can get an exotic again? This question gets asked because there's a myth that circles around to explain why someone hasn't gotten an exotic to drop in what feels like a really long time. There's absolutely nothing in the data that suggests that there's any sort of cooldown where after a certain amount of time, a flip switches and your next chest is gonna have an exotic. There was a long 30-run stretch where I got 0 exotics. That's almost 2 hours without an exotic to drop. And then immediately after that, 5 exotics dropped over the next 8 lost sectors, with literally nothing changing. It was the same exact lost sector for all 38 runs and about the same completion time for each run. There were also some times where an exotic dropped back to back 3 times, so I can confidently say that there is absolutely no hidden cooldown timer preventing you from getting an exotic to drop. It's just the same 4-sided dice roll every time you open the chest. There's nothing in the game working against you, just get the platinum ranking and eventually you'll get a drop. So this begs the question, if legend lost sectors have about a 25% drop chance for exotics, and master lost sectors are supposed to be a higher chance, what's actually better for farming, legend or master? Months ago, I ran over 150 master lost sectors and got about a 23% exotic drop rate, which I even admitted then was probably lower than the actual drop rate because 150 runs wasn't really high enough to pinpoint the drop rate like having the data from 1600 legend runs is. Looking at other people that were tracking their master runs, the best that I could find was about a 33% drop rate with Master, and Master taking about 2 to 3 minutes longer to run than Legend. So let's say that the average legendary lost sector takes about 3 minutes to clear. Some of them do, some of them don't, like the moon lost sectors take a lot longer on average. With some napkin math, if you have an hour, that means you can do 20 legendary lost sectors, not accounting for any load times. And with a 25% drop rate, that's 5 exotics per hour. If masters take you 2 minutes longer on average, which is being pretty generous, 5-minute runs means you get 12 chances for exotics per hour. And using a 33% drop chance for Master Lost Sectors, you'll have 4 exotics to show for in 1 hour. So what this tells us is that in the best circumstances, where a Master Lost Sector only takes you an extra 2 minutes to complete, where the enemies you fight are even more powerful and you're even weaker, and there's even more barriers to entry for Master than Legend, all of that just to get the same amount of exotics for your time, or actually even less exotics for your time on Master compared to Legend. Just do yourself a favor and stick to Legend for farming, or you'll wind up like me and spend almost 100 hours in a Lost Sector. The next answer I want to give answers a few variations of the same question, so if you've wondered why the new seasonal exotic hasn't dropped for you but other exotics have, why do I keep getting the same exotics instead of the exotic that I actually want? Is Bungie weighing certain exotics more in favor of other exotics to drop? Or do certain Lost Sectors only drop specific exotics as opposed to other exotics? The data I collected seems to suggest that there is something going on, but what that is probably not what many of you think. Let me explain. When you open the chest, you roll a 4-sided dice to see if you're going to be lucky enough for an exotic to drop. If you are, the system then looks at what exotic is dropping that day and sees if you're missing any exotics in that filter. So let's say today is dropping boots and you're missing the Radiant Dance Machines on your hunter. If that's the only hunter boots you're missing, then the exotic you're going to get from the chest is the Radiant Dance Machines. The chest basically has a knockout system that first prioritizes exotics that you're missing. So if the system is already weighing the chances of some things dropping more than other things, would that same system also weigh other exotics more or less even outside of that knockout system? Maybe you're trying to farm Heart of Inmost Lights like I was for a Titan build I was working on, or maybe you're trying to get a good roll on a new exotic from this season. Are you fighting an RNG system that doesn't want you to get what you want? In my opinion, backed by all of this data, there does not appear to be any sort of mechanic that is weighing any exotics over any other exotics, even if an exotic is brand new. For example, I ran the Quarry Legendary Lost Sector 100 times last season and got multiple Curious of the Falling Star exotic chest pieces to drop on my Titan. This was the first season this exotic was available, and it was dropping about the same as any other exotic chest piece on Titan. Out of 98 exotic Titan helmets I got, each helmet dropped within the same amount of times as each other. Out of 98 helmets that dropped, there's 7 different helmets you can get on Titan. 98 divided by 7 is 14, which would be how many times each exotic would drop if everything was balanced. In actuality, each helmet was in 3 to 4 of that 14. So what the data pretty clearly suggests is that there's absolutely nothing working against you from getting the exotic that you're hunting to drop. If you're running a Lost Sector dropping helmets, you're just as likely to get one exotic helmet as you are to get any other exotic helmet on your class. The next question is one that I see a lot of people ask, because whether you're farming for a particular role on an exotic or you're trying to fill out the exotics that you're still missing, everyone wants to know what the best and easiest Lost Sectors to farm for are. This is how I rank all of the legendary Lost Sectors from best to farm to worst to farm. Vale's Labyrinth, Chamber of Starlight, The Quarry, Excavation Site 12, Aphelios Rest, The Empty Tank, Concealed Void, Well of Drowned Wishes, Scavenger's Den, Perdition, Exodus Garden, Bunker E15, K1 Communion, K1 Crew Quarters, K1 Logistics, and K1 Revelation as the worst Lost Sector. Basically, the EDZ and Cosmodrome Lost Sectors are the best for farming. Europa, Dreaming City, and the Tangled Shore are almost as good, and then the Moon is by far the worst to farm for. This order is based off a mix of how long each one took to complete on average over 100 runs, and how easy, challenging, or plain aggravating they were to clear. The Moon Lost Sectors are both extremely long compared to every other Lost Sector, and are also just considerably more annoying. Out of about 93 hours spent farming, 33 of those hours were spent just in the 4 Moon Lost Sectors. That means that 25% of the Lost Sectors took about 33% of my time. Since I tracked almost every single exotic I got, I can answer some questions that you probably have about the stat points. I've seen a lot of people wonder if there's any difference in stats between exotics that drop on Legend versus exotics that drop on Master. And all that I can really say is that there's absolutely no noticeable difference between either one. Exotics that drop on Legend appear to be the same as ones that drop on Master. The average total stats that dropped was about 63, with about a third of all exotics that dropped having more than 65 total stat points, and the highest total stat points to drop was 69, so almost always exotics are definitely dropping with higher than normal stat points. If you take nothing else away from this video, here's the 3 most important things things that I can leave you with. Even though it feels like there's something working against you from getting that exotic that you want, I promise that there's nothing working against you. Everyone is rolling the same 4-sided dice, hoping to get lucky with an exotic to drop. If you've gone a while without a drop, it's just because that dice isn't landing on the side that you need. Number 2, for 99% of people, it's better to farm for exotics on legend difficulty rather than master difficulty. At best, the drop rates seem to be within about 10% of each other, and you'll get the same amount of exotics for your time either way, or even less on master compared to legend, but you have to deal with so much more frustration in master compared to legend. It also takes a lot more bounty farming to get to a power level where master doesn't just one-shot you all the time, so just stick to legend. The best lost sectors for farming are on the EDZ or the Cosmodrome. If those aren't available though, stick to running the Europa, Dreaming City, or the Tangled Shore lost sectors for all of your farming, and just avoid the moon unless you're truly desperate. I can't really think of any examples of when you'd be desperate enough that you need to farm for something so badly that you need to settle for the moon, so just wait 4 days for the next chance to get the exotic that you want, and you won't have to do a moon lost sector. I really hope that this video and the time I spent putting it together helps some of you out with your farming. I'm probably not going to touch a lost sector for a while. If there's any questions that you still have about lost sectors, comment them down below and I'll answer them either in another video or in a Twitter post. And definitely follow me on Twitter for more helpful content like this, but broken down into very short and concise posts that save you time. Thanks for watching. This whole world twice, if I could be a paradise.